Today marks the deadline for the DOJ to make the Epstein files public.
We're going to release several 100,000 documents today. I expect that we're going to release more documents over the next couple of weeks. So today, several 100,000, and then over the next couple of weeks, I expect several 100,000 more. There's a lot of eyes looking at these, and we want to make sure that when we do produce the materials we're producing, that we're protecting every single victim.
Yeah, nonsense and illegal. They have to release all of the files today. If they don't, they could be in some legal trouble. In fact, we had Representative Khanna on the show yesterday, and he outlined a scenario where Pam Bondi might be arrested if they don't release all the files. But wait till you see who's combing through the files at the end here. Maybe it gives away the game as to what was actually happening with Epstein. So Yaz has the details now.
All right, so a month ago, President Donald Trump signed the Epstein Files Transparency Act into law, and that started a 30-day timer for Attorney General Pam Bondi to release all the documents related to Epstein. But as you just saw, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, he has stated that the administration is going to roll out the documents over time rather than just release them all at once. That is not what they're supposed to be doing. So we received only some of the files today, and we will talk about what is in them in just a moment. First, let's watch Representative Khanna explain what consequences Pam Bondi could face for concealing those Epstein files.
So when we talk about prosecution, we're not talking about tomorrow because the Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. So it's Pam Bondi's not going to arrest herself as the Attorney General. Would consequences begin if the Democrats take the House in 2026?
Well, they could begin before that. I mean, Massey and I have talked about introducing an impeachment resolution against Pam Bondi, where we could get Republicans breaking and supporting that if the release of the files is not in compliance with the law. You already have Susie Wiles throwing her under the bus, the White House chief of staff, saying she whiffed. So she is losing support among the Republican caucus. Second, she could be held in inherent contempt of Congress. That means the Sergeant of Arms of Congress could actually arrest her, and there could be a trial in Congress about whether she was transparent. And we are pursuing a number of those things.
All right, so the Epstein Files Transparency Act, it does allow for some redactions. So the Epstein Files Act says the Justice Department may withhold or redact the identities of Epstein's victims and contains exemptions that would allow the DOJ to withhold records that would jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution. So here is Representative Thomas Massey explaining how we'll be able to tell whether we're getting the real files or an over-redacted cop-out.
One of the ways we'll know is there are people who have covered this case for years, and I've talked to them in private, and they know what some of the material is that's back there. But the other way that we're gonna know is the victims' lawyers have been in contact with me, and collectively they know there are at least 20 names of men who are accused of sex crimes in the possession of the FBI. These would reside in the FD 302 forms. So if we get a large production on December 19th, and it does not contain a single name of any male who's accused of a sex crime or sex trafficking or rape or any of these things, then we know they haven't produced all the documents. It's that simple.
All right, well, what happens now? Well, under the law, the DOJ has 15 days to turn over its rationale for any documents that it has decided to withhold. We should also mention who is doing the redacting and why, because that is interesting. The Justice Department's National Security Division inherited the redaction work from the FBI. It's surprising to many national security law specialists that that's who's doing the work, given the division's historical emphasis on classified matters and the lack of a nexus between Epstein and national security interests. So, Cenk, there's more to this story, and we will get into what has a little bit of what's been released with the files. Does that suggest that Epstein was connected to intelligence? And this also speaks to a story that we're going to discuss a little bit later.
Yeah, 100%. So there's already so many connections to intelligence, and as Yaz alluded to there, check out our video on the latest, where apparently Jeffrey Epstein was in the middle of the Iran-Contra scandal. He was apparently one of the most powerful men on earth without any of us ever knowing about it. But there is no regular citizen in the middle of an Iran-Contra scandal and helping to ship arms back and forth. After reading that story, it becomes 100% clear that he's intelligence. Is it CIA or Mossad? Those are your only two choices. Again, the Israelis brokered the Iran-Contra deal. Of course they did, okay? But he might be CIA. And that might be why our government has been protecting him all along. And now, what is the other piece of evidence that is now confirming it on the same day? Well, our own government telling us, yeah, national security is now redacting things. Why does national security have to redact information about a sex crime in New York and in Florida? That should have nothing to do with national security unless there was intelligence involved. But hold, we gave you one quote already from CNN. Let me give you a different quote. Counterintelligence specialists were asked to drop nearly all of their other work to process the Epstein documents, two people said. And then there's a fascinating little twist, but some lawyers declined to participate. So number one, counterintelligence and national security is redacting materials from Epstein files, period. Intelligence, no question, over. Okay.
Don't forget, Noble Mobile is saving you a ton of money. So a lot of people are signing up now and beginning to realize, what the hell? Why am I paying so much to Verizon and AT&T? So your bill's only $50 a month, but it can actually be less because they give you money back if you don't use your data. So if you're paying more than $50, there's no reason to not switch. It's crazy not to switch because same phone, same number, same contacts, literally nothing changes. TYT.com/switch, TYT.com/switch. All right, we'll be right back.
Number two, apparently it's so supernova toxic that some lawyers in the government are refusing to participate in the redactions. That's also interesting. So meanwhile, New York Times, we'll get into this more later, is still saying the idea that he might be connected with intelligence is conspiracy theories. Well, the government's saying it. They're saying we gotta do counterintelligence on this material. The national security interests are at play. Why? Obviously, he's involved in state affairs, whether it's American or Israeli intelligence. And that's not the weird part, guys. When you're running a giant potential blackmail operation on the most powerful people on earth, it's not that surprising that an intelligence agency would be involved. What's surprising is all of the national media in unison covering it up. But finally, CNN here, and I'm kind of amused by it, because as the government is telling them, this is counterintelligence. We are the ones that are redacting these files. CNN says at the end of the article, it is awfully strange, doesn't normally happen. Wow, okay, we got a slight admission there. Yes, it is awfully strange.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.